fighters, people who get it, people who roll up their sleeves and get elbows deep in the process. And with us this morning is one of those folks, Executive Director of Fair Share America, none other than Kristen Crowell this morning, joining us here on Choose Views in our spicy conversations this morning. Welcome to the show, Kristen.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you probably we've been a little spicy this morning, the edited versions of spiciness.
Well, I'm always game to pick up on the spicy. I think right now there's a lot of important things, and we should be provocative and pushing the limits. So thanks for including me in the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, you've included yourself because as one of the strongest voices right now, as Executive Director of Fair Share America, you've made it clear to folks that that Americans, as is entitled in your article, in your op-ed, Americans know a bad deal when they see it. Now's the time to offer an alternative vision. Guys, you'll want to check that out over at heartlandsignal.com. It's an op-ed that Kristen contributed to us, to you guys. But take a moment, if you could, Kristen, and tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit about how you've ascended to this point in your career as being one of the leading voices with Fair Share America.
Well, I come to this work as I got involved in the political process as, honestly, a really fed up mom who was fighting against cuts to my kids' schools over 25 years ago. And I'm a working mom of 5 kids. I'm a regular person. I am not an operative. I do not live in Washington, D.C. I did not get a fancy degree in poli-sci, didn't go to an Ivy League. I am just a regular working mom who sees the world that we live in and want to do work that gives voice to people like me all over the country who are angry and furious and fed up around a system that prioritizes wealth and power and greed over the needs of our families and our children and our veterans and our teachers. And at this moment that we're in, I cannot tell you how this is so much bigger than one organization or myself. This is an uprising that has taken fire all across the country, and it is really a populist movement that we are saying enough is enough. We need our government to reflect our values, and Washington, D.C. politicians need to work for us and not the billionaire class. And it's really as simple as that.
Yeah, a couple things that I want to compliment you on. Mother of 5. Listen, y'all, don't mess with the mom. Don't mess with the mom of 5. I'm just going to say that right out of the gate. Don't mess with the mom of 5. You might get yourself hurt. So first of all, compliments and kudos to you there for being a great mom.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Kristen, so listen, you said something a moment ago that a lot of people are speaking to about not having that quote-unquote Ivy League degree and blah, 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 that people put a lot of unnecessary, inordinate value on. I'll take a Big Ten degree and someone with Midwestern fighting skills day in and day out because, that's not denigrating an Ivy League degree, but we have to remember, those of us that are in the Midwest, the upper Midwest, and other parts of the country, from a purely what's important to the country standpoint, exactly what you just said. And that is, there is an uprising that people need to be focused on. And that's one of the things that I'm so proud that you're doing. And in your op-ed, you speak loudly to that. And here's what it is for me, and you highlight this so well: the lack of investment in America is one of the biggest mistakes that we've made in America, whether it be the tax movement, whether it be just pure investment in the country. I go back to the early to mid 80s, and I remember talking with friends and family then about the fact that we weren't reinvesting in the country. We're talking a big game about how technology was going to change everything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and make lives better and easier for people. But what we were missing at the time is a reinvestment in America, both in terms of education, in terms of on-the-job training, and all the rest. And that snowballed now into not reinvesting, has created this gap, but then giving tax breaks. And this is what I want you to kind of lean into: giving tax breaks to people that don't deserve, them more than people who are this large, hardworking, middle-class group of people. So talk about that and talk about the research that you've done in that space.
Well, first of all, it's important to remember that these are our tax dollars. We, the American public, our working people, are paying into the tax system to support services that our families and communities rely on. Healthcare. We're talking about very fundamental things. Healthcare, food and nutrition, childcare, education, veteran services. These are not luxury items. These are the very things that get people from, day to day, help folks get ahead, build a strong middle class. And you're right. There's been 40 years of disinvestment under the banner of so-called trickle-down economics, where if we give our tax dollars away to rich people, the quote-unquote job creators, it'll somehow trickle down to the rest of us. And we know that's not true. This has been a myth and a lie that those of us who are old enough, like myself, this is something that was told to us and sold to us. And it's ridiculous. We know it in our own lives that this has not happened. We have an enormous wealth gap in this country that should not exist. The billionaires, and make no mistake, what is being proposed in Washington, D.C. and the GOP tax and budget plan is more of our tax dollars given to billionaires to further enrich them. And, again, these are the folks who have hijacked our government right now, the Elon Musks, the Trump friends. It's a very small circle of billionaires that will benefit. And at the same time, we're seeing millions and millions of people all across the country that would see deep impacts. And I think the American public has just said, we get it. This is enormously unfair. It's rigged. We're not going to take it. And we are fighting back in a way that, candidly, I've been doing organizing, Richard, for 25 years. I've never seen anything like this. I go all over the country. I'm hosting teletown halls. One, the American public really understands what this ripoff is, and they are not going to be silent. They are protesting, they are calling, they are writing their members of Congress, that's the human data. And then we know from polling and the survey research, over 80% of Americans agree with us. I would use lots of spicy words to describe this. This is unfair, unpopular. This is unpopular. So any member of Congress that is looking at this, it's like, what are you thinking? These are your voters, your constituents, and you're going to go to vote to take away their health care? Like, are you bananas? So it's very hopeful time to see the American public standing together. And, I talked to people that voted for Trump that said, look, we were promised that he cared about working people like me, and then turn around and see this. They know this is a rigged system, and we're just not going to take it. And so Fair Share America, the organization that I'm so privileged to get to lead, is an organization that works all across the country. We are partnering with over 450 state-based organizations to make sure that real people have the opportunity to get in this fight. And sometimes we talk about the tax code. And I'm going to level with you. When people started talking to me about taxes, my first response was, this is years ago. I'm like, well, I don't understand the tax code. That's like you have to be a lawyer or you have to be an economist. But the truth is the tax is the through line that connects all the things we care about. It pays for the world that we want to live in. It builds the public good that we are trying to create for all people. And once you see the money, and this would be my message to the listeners this morning, follow the money. Once you see the money and how it is used to either better our lives or enrich these billionaires, you cannot unsee it. And the GOP understands the ROI. They understand how to use the tax code to manipulate the budget, to further take our money, our tax dollars, and put it in their pockets and their shareholders' pockets. And it's simply unacceptable, and we're not going to stand for it.
I love the word that I wrote down, Kristen, is fight. This morning, this is about fighting.
Yeah.
You're fighting. David Jolly and the clips that we played talked about fighting. One of the clips that we're going to probably play later in the show is in that same space. It's about fighting right now. And I want to come back to something and not ask you a question, but just make a statement. Warren Buffett and Mark Cuban get it in terms of billionaires that understand the power of paying their fair share of taxes. And Warren Buffett is, and I'm going to wreck the quote, but he's basically saying if the other billionaires paid their taxes in alignment with what our company's doing, I think he says the other 800, if other 800 companies paid their taxes in the manner in which we wouldn't have any of these issues as it relates to our deficits and such. But these two guys, they get it, and they happily pay their taxes because they understand something that a lot of the other guys don't get. And this is a statement that I've been making for a long time. Without these tax laws, tax abatements, tax credits, pass-throughs, and all the other fancy language, and the grants that are provided to the Musk and to what's the guy that's the head of Amazon? Why am I drawing a blank on his name? Jeff Bezos.
Oh, our friend Jeff Bezos. Yes.
All of the people that have been given the label of they bootstrapped it up. Without the tax support system of the United States of America on a federal and state level, they would not be where they are today. Hands down, because neither one of them are geniuses in the sense that, oh my God, they created something out of the sky that's this. No, they had tax benefits that came out of our pockets. And then Bezos goes out and creates jobs that are frankly hazardous to the drivers. And the list goes on and on and on. But their wealth is built off of the backs of Americans, and that's where,
absolutely,
and where and what you're doing and why what you're doing is so important. These are not special guys; they're mediocre dudes that got exceptional amounts of support and tax credits from our country for them to do what they're doing, and that's why I appreciate what you said about fighting and the awareness. Once people see what's behind the curtain, they would be more and more enlightened. How did people do that? When you said that, I wrote down the word how. How is it that regular folks can be more plugged in and have, for lack of better words, an easier understanding of the tax code? Because I think a lot of people like you, they kind of go, oh my God, I don't want to even talk about that, think about that. It's bad, but I don't want to know the details. Help us out in that space.
Sure. So first of all, I'm just going to plug, if you want to know more about our organization and how to connect to an organizer in your state, it's www.fairshareusa.org. And we provide lots of resources on what is really in this GOP budget, how to talk to elected officials, how to organize events in your own community. But the most important thing that I would say is you don't have to be a tax policy expert. Don't get bogged down in feeling like you're not qualified to talk about your own life. This is not a policy fight. This is a values fight. This is a moral fight. And you do not have to know the tax code in your state or the federal government to be qualified to talk about the impact on your family. And that's what this is. And I feel like this word fight, Richard, it's really important because fighting is a hopeful posture. Fighting shows us that if we band together, that there is hope in numbers and that we can do something and that we have agency over our choices in our lives. And this is what we're pushing our elected officials to recognize. Like, you have to make a choice. Are you going to be on the side of us, the American public, working people, the families who have built this country through our work and our taxes? Or are you going to be on the side of billionaires? Are you going to give more of our tax dollars in handouts? And we can force that choice by getting involved. And again, it's fairshareusa.org. And then there are several big events on the horizon. This Saturday, April 5th, there's a massive uprising all over the country, the single largest day of protest since Donald Trump was inaugurated. It's called the Hands Off event. Hands off our Medicaid, hands off our taxes, hands off our programs. And you can go to the website and get plugged in all over the country. And you don't have to be an expert on the tax code. You're already an expert in your daily life. you're seeing the impact. You know, if you lose health care, what that downstream affected on your budget, on medical debt, on your child's ability to get their medication. And again, the right wing, they know the ROI of the tax code. They're so obsessed with it because they know that's where the money is. That's how they get rich. And you're right. These men, they can't make this much money on their own. Yes, you can get ahead in this country, right? We all believe that there is an American dream that we've bought into, that if we work hard, good work pays, we get to achieve a middle-class life. But you don't get to be a trillionaire, near trillionaire, just by working hard. It's impossible. So, again, we understand this. We are fighting back, and we're taking it to them. And we're asking our elected leaders, Democrats and Republicans, frankly, this is a populist movement. That's the other piece that I would say, is that from the ground, this is not just Democrats against Republicans in terms of voters and real people. We're all coming together and say, like, what the hell? This is rigged, and we're not going to take it.
And that's the message that I think is so important that folks hear. Kristen, you know, we always have limited time, so we're going to have you back because you're a voice that people need to hear.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. The energy that you bring and the text that I'm getting from people says that we were truly blessed to have you this morning. I want to ask you a little bit about something that you were part of back in 2022, this Massachusetts millionaire tax. Do I have that correct? Talk about that and how the impact of that now and how that could spread and be effective throughout the rest of the country.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go just a tad wonky on you.
That's okay.
In Massachusetts, there was something called a flat tax. And a flat tax is everybody pays the same rate of taxes regardless of their income. So if you are a $20,000 a year low-wage worker or a millionaire in Massachusetts, you paid the same rate. It was in the state constitution. Illinois is the same. If you are listening in Illinois right now, Illinois has a flat tax, meaning everyone pays the same rate. It is nearly impossible to generate the type of revenue we need to build the society we deserve with a flat tax system. So that was the background. The millionaire's tax was a ballot initiative, so citizens were able to vote on whether or not we thought millionaires should pay a modest 4% more on every dollar over $1 million. And the voters, again, this was 2022, midterm election, passed this. And since the passage of this bill, it is bringing in nearly $3 billion with a B. It's a number I can barely comprehend. $3 billion that is going to transportation, so improved roads, improved transit, education investments, both capital investments to modernize schools, make them healthier, and higher education. I believe over 25,000 students were able to attend college for free because of the investment. So these are the choices that we're making. Do we want to invest in our people, in our infrastructure, in our education system, or do we want to give millionaires and billionaires another handout? And Massachusetts is an incredible example. We saw the Lego Corporation move their headquarters. I mean, I think one of the things, the myth is that this is bad for business. That's insane. The Lego company moved their headquarters to Boston after the millionaire's tax and cited these investments in the workforce and in the infrastructure as being one of the key reasons to move jobs. So again, I don't understand the corporate America's thinking that if they starve us, if they impoverish us, if we don't have wages, we can't buy their stuff. I mean, I'd love to have a conversation with Mr. Bezos and say, how are we going to buy Amazon if we don't have money in our pockets? How is this good for business? How does this create jobs? And again,
and this is why we're
not idiots. No, we are not idiots.
Kristen, and this is why. See, you're about to get spicy. I can feel it ramping up in you, and that's a good thing.
I'm very spicy this morning, Richard. I'm very spicy.
So, Kristen, but listen, this is where and why. First of all, we're going to have you back because this is a conversation that more people. You didn't get too wonky there. I think folks got that one, and the way you broke it down was excellent. But there's a couple of things I want to comment on that you said. This whole conversation around trickle down, and if the rich get tax breaks and blah blah blah, they're going to do all these great things. I've been asking for 40 years, prove it, because going back to Reagan, They've never proven that that actually happened. It's actually been proven wrong because of the destruction of the middle class. And the upper middle class is now feeling that too, because they recognize, like you just said, well, I can't order all this stuff on Amazon because if they're taking away this piece of the revenue that I get from how I'm working and where my dollars are coming from because they've suppressed other support mechanisms, then that's come out of my pocket. And so this is why people have to be plugged into this. They cannot afford to bury their heads in the sand and go, well, I don't know enough about it. No, that's unacceptable, America. That's unacceptable. They have not proven to us, Kristen, that trickle-down works. They haven't done it.
I mean, I would say we know the data. We know otherwise. We know it doesn't work.
Right.
And you don't have to be an expert. Look at your own life in the last 40 years. Are you and your neighbors better off with these policies? No. The answer is no. Have you seen supports and public good and services improve? No. We've disinvested from our people. We've disinvested from our workers. And there's a big reckoning. And it's right now, and it's happening all over the country.
Yeah, it definitely is. Leveling the playing. This is a statement, and then we'll wrap up and get you scheduled back in. But the reality Kristen. Reality is, leveling the playing field has always freaked out those who know that they're not as as strong and as great as they are. They're not the fastest, strongest, bestest in the room. When you level the playing field, that curtain gets pulled back to show that there's 100 Jeff Bezoses and Elon Musk's in the United States of America when you level the playing field. And that's the reason, I believe, at its core, that they don't want that to happen, because then they are exposed as not being that great after all. And I don't know if that's my opinion based on observation. And I don't know if you think that way or have thought about it that way, but they don't want the playing field level, because then the Kristens of the world and the Richards and the Devons and all the rest ascend and show them you're not that great after all, dude.
Oh, I'll keep I have a lot of thoughts about these men that I've never met, a lot of opinions.
Whoa.
But what we're talking about right now is not even the wealth gap in this country between the haves and the have-not is the most extreme in my lifetime. Leveling the playing field, we're just trying to get a fair shot, Richard.
Yeah.
We're like way away from that. And the middle class is squeezed. That's like a dream now, to be in the middle class and be able to take one vacation a year and have paid time off and put your kid through college or community college. That's like barely attainable for most folks right now. So we're not talking about leveling the playing field. We're talking about making progress to closing the wealth gap and stop giving our money to these rich people. How do you spend nearly $1 trillion in a lifetime? They can't even spend it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just sitting in bank accounts.
Right.
So come on.
Exactly.
Do you really care about human beings or not? And that's what this fight is about. And I'm just grateful for the time this morning. And thank you for having me. And thank you to the listeners who are making your voices heard all over the country. And it does matter. It does matter. They are nervous. The GOP is nervous. They are telling their elected Republican representatives not to hold town halls. Do not talk to their constituents. And this is where we are so important, and the organizing matters. So again, thank you. Thank you to everyone who is doing your part, because I think the myth is that these guys are unstoppable, and it's wrong. We can totally stop them.
And that's why I'm so happy that we've been able to have you this morning. We will do this again sooner than later, because it's an ongoing conversation. But for now, Kristen, let folks know how they can find you before we wrap up.
Yeah, please go to our website. It's www.fairshareusa.org, and you can get plugged into our organization, sign up for our e-newsletter. We provide lifetime updates, what's happening in Washington, D.C., and ways that you can get in the fight. And then we can connect you to local organizers all over the country so that you can participate in the local civic engagement and the democracy that we are, again, trying to push back against this regime in Washington. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Kristen.
And have a good day.
It's great to have you with us. Have a great day. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now.